when it goes up, the system might crash. When these things happen, the whole nation is usually in total darkness, affecting businesses and livelihoods of people. You predicted earlier that if the national grid gets to 6,000 megawatts, it would definitely crash.
Well,
was that prediction taken seriously?
Well, like you said, I was a member of the investigative panel on system collapses, and the issues that was brought to the fore, the issue of SCIDA, the issue of proper management of the frequency, the issue of black starting, the issue of spinning reserve for generation, the issue of different layers of system protection. Like just in our typical houses, you're expected to have what we call the distribution box, or some protection that when there are issues, as little as our television, we have what we call the power guard or the UPS, so that the current does not come directly to your TV set, because there are TV sets that's as high as 4 million. So you need to create protection so that when there are issues of load variation, maybe high voltage, they will not come directly to your TV set, they will come to the protection. It's so as simple as that. On the grid, some of these grids were built as old as 30, 40 years ago. I recall that in 2013, the problem with the system collapse in June was as a result of obsolete infrastructure in Benin. A breaker, if you have a breaker, it's only in Nigeria you have equipment on grid and you expect them to last forever. It's not done anywhere. So some of our grid, particularly the conveyor in between the transmission infrastructure, the last administration was able to draw not less than $8 billion for the power sector, apart from gas infrastructure, investment in brownfield and what have you. Then the Siemens project. So one began to wonder, as simple as reactors you don't have breakers, if there is a concern with generation, like Engineer Atiku have said, if the different layers of the protections are there, within 48 hours, we lost Kanji, Jeba, 132 line transmission. It was engulfed by fire. Then by Friday last week, it was not even recorded. Benin Kebbi substation was gutted by fire. And when you put these two infrastructure together, it's about 4 billion naira, more than about 5 million conservatively. So we cannot continue to operate in that manner. So the issue Engineer Atiku have raised is just as a result of human element. When there's no time that the managers of the grid have requested from money from the past administration and even the present administration that they've not gotten priority. So one began to wonder. The statement that was issued by Transmission Company of Nigeria said, yes, our system can collapse because we are not the only one that is at fault. We don't have proper frequency management. We don't have SCIDA. You cannot operate a grid in the 21st century without a SCIDA.
What does SCIDA do?
Good.
Why is it important to transmission?
Okay, like in 2013 report, most of the analysis of the system collapses of the grid were inputted manually. And so that brings about suppression of information. But in the SCIDA system, it's like automation of the grid. Remotely, you can monitor the load frequency management. You can monitor the management and performance of the grid. Load evacuation, load generation, the input, the cascading of electricity from one part of the value chain to the other. The SCIDA will give you, just like you have the, what do they call it, the election automation. So you can have data that is in sequence and is accurate. So without a SCIDA system, it's a telecom sector, equipment that takes charge of data on the grid. So that is very important. So if you don't have the SCIDA, there was an infrared machine that's supposed to be used for the purposes of falling out of the grid collapse that occurred in Benin. And somebody in Benin said, we'll ask, how did you get the report in Benin transmission substation? Or you call Nepa Road in Benin, I believe you will know the place from Benin. They said, okay, we use infrared. And I asked, can we have the data sequence of that infrared to show that that infrared was really used on the network? Then the person now confessed to us that, yes, he is the operator of the infrared. The machine was bought, but he has never used it. Another person, his director was sent to Germany for the training. So the major problem we have...
Not the person who...
Not the person who will operate. So the major problem we have is that, like about 2-3 years ago, we lost Calabar transmission station, we lost Ikeja transmission station, we lost Kumboso transmission station, about 6 to 7 transmission infrastructure. And the only thing we get as end users, like last week Thursday, the whole nation was put in a global embarrassment. There was no power supply. You can imagine the cost to the economy.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kunle, Kola, Olubiyo. We'll come back to you.
Okay, Engineer Abubakar Atiku Tambuwal, you've raised some issues also, which I'm going to take over to Mr. Kunle. The German electricity company Siemens is to increase generation and distribution capacity in threefolds to 11,000 megawatts by 2023. We are in 2023 now. We are not seeing anything on ground.
Well, thank you very much. For us as end users, that's what we call political megawatts. You know, there are powers that electricity that is being generated through PowerPoint presentation. You go to seminar and you say, okay, by 2023, you have said it 11,000 megawatts. We're in 2023. By 2025, 20,000 megawatts, and by 2027, 40,000 megawatts.
And we're still less than 60,000.
It's not done in that manner. In Egypt, they were able to ramp up power with serious political commitment by additional 20 to 30,000 megawatts within a short span. What is missing here is political will and commitment. We have written to Mr. President. We've been doing follow-up with the Office of the Chief of Staff. You can quote me. During the Jonathan administration, we have a standing committee of presidential committee or advisory committee on power. We have envisaged that Mr. President could appoint somebody that does not have a background, just like appointing somebody to NEC who does not have a background of the sector. It may take them 2-3 years to do the learning. So if you appoint the Minister of Power, with due respect to him, is good as former Deputy Governor of Central Bank, and you know the economics. Now we don't have a Minister of State for Power. We've written to Mr. President before the Chief of Staff that constitute, we've suggested name, including Engineer Atiku Tambuwal, who is there, which is not even known to him. Please bring this team that can see through the discussions or the issues. Some ideas may come to the minister who is not coming with a background of power that may be mischievous for personal reasons. So having said that, the grid is ready. We expected that there will be double or triple circuit lines, so that when load is lost, as happened in Kanji, it will not push the load to the entire grid and create system collapses. This has not been done. The Siemens Power Project was conceived from Germany. Somebody just sit down in an office, use what we call Google Map and GPS without local content. That's what we call the need assessment. Our need assessment will have been, if you do more than 5,800 megawatts with the obsolete infrastructure that we have, the grid will collapse. So if TCN is celebrating that for 400 or 500 days, there have not been system collapse, there have been low load evacuation. That's what we call the stress test. The grid cannot withstand a stress load of something above 5,800 megawatts. So if the generation has been low, if load has been rejected, and you are doing a low frequency of 4,000 megawatts, and you are celebrating stunted growth. So the present grid we have now, virtually the equipment is obsolete. If you travel to the south, from Ila, Asaba, Ila, you are going to Ebu and going to some other part of Benin, you will see there are vegetations like rubber and what have you that are encroaching on the grid. Some of these conductors have been cut off by the vegetation. I cannot even recall when last huge investment was made in vegetation control. You have so many parts of the south that the vegetation there, once there's a leaf touching the network, there will be transient fault. The leaf will burn, the line will trip off. So we need to make sure that our grid is not monolithic. So our faith now is that you talk about 20,000. Have we created a backup grid that can take beyond 5,800 for a population of 200 and something by 2050, our population will be 400 million. We have a proven reserve of gas of about over 200 trillion cubic feet. So why can't we think of other sources of the grid? Like the president have just signed the Electricity Act. So that if we have sector-specific generation to the cluster, you have 74 local government. In each local government, each area of the country have their area of comparative advantages based on the energy mix. We cannot load everybody to the grid because, like I've said, the investment, the amount of money it will take us to raise the capacity of the obsolete grid beyond 6,000 megawatts is enormous. So let's go off the grid. Each local government, if in Talata Mafara, if it is solar, let us have solar generation from photovoltaic. If in a particular...
What about windmills?
No, I'm just saying, I say area of comparative advantages. Okay. Different part of the country, there are places that you can use fresh water, hydro. There are places you can use wind. Like in the south, you cannot sustain the level of wind in the south or the sun. So in the southern part of the country, there are other, it could be biomass, there are different energy sources. And we have the clean gas, which is what we can adopt as for our energy transition and net zero. So we need to invest in the gas sector to create. We are the ninth largest the country in the ninth rated reserve of gas in the world.
Okay.
So we need to look at that economy.
Let me pause you here. Thanks a lot. You've raised a number of issues. Before we bring in a more formal, I'd like you to clarify this, because at the commencement of today's program, my colleague and I were bantering, and we restated the fact that the TCN, that is the Transmission Company of Nigeria, had celebrated the fact that for about 400 days there had been no grid collapse. But you are slamming that now.
Yes.
Why?
The TCN need to be technically overhauled. Like we have said, the minister is out. He was in Korea. By now, I believe he's on his way to the US. There are work to be done. We need to hit, we mean well for the gentleman, we need to hit the ground running. Politics is over. Engineer Atiku is an APC leader, but we're talking economy here. Politics is over. Whatever we are saying about energy security is about national security. Because when we are even going to talk to investors in India, in Korea or USA, you need the energy here for the energy intensive industries and the clusters. So we are losing out in terms of competition because we are not getting it right. So the minister needs to come back, sit down with us for 1 month. Like one of the ministers was here, and after you were the moderator of the event, and after you asked him 2-3 questions, you were only turning camera from him in his essay, said, don't ask minister question again. And he sent me a message after the Good Morning Nigeria. How did you see my performance? I said, wallahi, kai kokori. You tried. What we are saying is that it's about knowledge of the sector. The president needs to give us a minister of state to complement the good effort of the minister. The president needs to set up. We are not asking for money. Some of the things we are discussing on air, because our own generation, when we're here, when you finish from university, you already have the job waiting for you. Our youths now
you think so?
Those days, they even keep what they call the ladder, because the jobs were there where you do your internship.
To get a house, a car.
To get a car and what have you. So for us to reduce the hopelessness index and this jackpot syndrome, like somebody like me, if you give me a visa, I can only go on a visit. I can't go to any country and stay 1 month because I don't have need for it. I believe in Nigeria. I can't even relocate to the US, maybe for my children. So we need to bring back that mentality. So the president needs to set up Presidential Advisory Committee on Power to give the best of good intention to Mr. President. We have written on that. It's with the Chief of Staff. We are following up on that, and we want that to be activated. Then we need a Minister of State for Power. Power sector is not where we have the sector leader. When the person is talking in megawatts, the person should not be talking in other terms. The person must have an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay, all right. But let's pause you again, Kunle. Again, you've raised a number of points, but the key essence of what I wanted you to address,
The cement.
Seems lost in the TCN to say that, look, they are celebrating 400 days. I think you touched on that.
They're celebrating low generation.
That's right. That's the point I want. That's the point. That's to say you slammed it because the grid had been stable because of low generation, and that anything above 5,800 megawatts,
The grid will collapse.
The grid will collapse. Is that what you're saying?
Because
And this is what happened?
you can't give what, it's not even what happened. The truth of the matter is that if you give a driver a car to do kabu for you, you know you must change the oil, you must fix the battery,
You don't give your own car to a kabu. The driver, the owner uses his own vehicle for kabu.
It's an engine that is being used. Most of the cement package that was put together, like I said, that's what we call the need assessment. There was nobody from Siemens that came in here before the putting together of this package to discuss with the discos what are your needs, to discuss with the gencos what are your needs. In an ideal situation, people are just looking for where to load foreign loan, because when you facilitate a contract, let me speak straight.
We don't. Hang on a second. We know where you're going, so we'll have to pause you and then take a short break on Good Morning Nigeria. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation. Here in the studios, Kunle Kola Olubiyo, President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, and he was a member of the investigative panel on power system collapses and stability and reliability. Kunle, we appreciate your insight. From Lagos, we were joined by Odion Omonfoma, energy expert and CEO of New Hampshire Group. Odion, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Similarly, we are grateful to Professor Mohammed Haruna, former Executive Vice Chairman of Naseni, who is now at NIPS, Kuru near Jos. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your insights. Let's go over to our sports desk.